take a relentless police detective and put him with a vigilant retiree who's been hacked, and you come up with a crime-fighting dream team.
So much fun.
Or more like a nightmare if you're a thief.
No, you inspired me.
Chicagoan Mitch Hinderman was convicted and sentenced to 2 3-year prison terms for wire fraud, identity theft, and drug possession in 2017. Ground zero was the Chicago suburb of Winnetka, population 12,500. 35-year-old Detective Jeremy Walton says neither he nor his fellow officers will likely ever come across a fraud case as deep and as wide as this one.
During an interview of him, I said, well, why did you target people in Winnetka, just for instance? He says, well, we know it's a high-dollar zip code. He goes, I would search on the dark web for zip codes of 60093. I would purchase packets of personal identifying information, and I would use that information to open online accounts. I would open bank accounts. I would make checks with their account number, routing number.
He had changed online my address to an address in Chicago.
He drove to that location. On the ground it said Julie Johnson, and then it had the new address that was supposedly hers. I contacted the United States Postal Inspector's office. I said, well, can you look into this online mail forwarding request? Do you have IP addresses? Figure out who would be behind the keyboard.
Perpetrator accessed my credit card my credit card information, private history, and inserted a name in my personal profile as a stepson. And that's inaccurate. So I called them and said, I have no stepson, and get him off, and you've been compromised. Somebody got into your system to do this.
People were using Julie's information to commit almost every type of fraud that was around at the time. It wasn't stopping. The first time I met with Julie, it was mostly credit card activity.
We found 9 fraudulent charges.
The second time I met with Julie, it was bank account activity, her personal bank accounts, and then new bank accounts, savings accounts that were opened in her name. The person had an entire profile of Julie. They were using unique emails to say forward further bank communication to this email address.
I had to work with the credit bureaus. They track every time someone inquires. Well, I was having this raft of inquiry and it affects my credit score. I needed to keep track day by day of what I had to do to fix this. I kept bringing in more information and more information. And he said the helpful part of that was he didn't have to get subpoenas for some information, which typically takes 2 or 3 months.
Over time, Walton earned the trust of several victims, including Julie Johnson, connecting the dots and recognizing important patterns.
I was receiving several identity thefts. It was all involving women above the age of 40. It was women in our community with good credit, maybe a new phone number, or that same phone number from this Google return I received back from Uber. We went to go after our main target. We had 4 detectives. We had 6 federal agents. We were able to reserve the electronic sniffing dog. So these are just the accessories that we also seized with this device, which shows us that he wasn't just holding on to this device, he was actively using it. So there's ribbon in here that would coat the card. You can make college identifications, you can make fraudulent Illinois driver's licenses. It tells you, like Department of Health, it has seals, so you know that you're using the right paper. He was making Social Security cards. He had several computers. All of these were purchased with personal identifying information that was not his. This is the tipping point. Okay, this guy really is manufacturing credit cards. You load the card in, erase lettering on your credit card is what this is for. He had someone's name, their credit card number, their social security card number, their bank account passwords, everything you could think about, that it was on there. It was amazing, because you don't see this most of the time with an investigation, especially with financial cases.
Detective Walton's work earned him Officer of the Year honors.
He works so well with other agencies. He works so well with the victims. Because a lot of times there's pieces of information that are left out because people just are embarrassed or ashamed. They don't want to talk about it. But that's a key piece of information that he can use to follow up and, potentially could lead to clearing the case. He was able to express his empathy and his tenacity at the same time, which I think was a big part of this case being successful.
Walton collaborated with another county, and his team fueled a federal investigation that allegedly involves upwards of 1,000 individual victims and 50 companies, like retailers, banks, and credit lenders.
You're committing a felony with 3 different financial institutions and more than what it is. It's an enterprise.
To reduce your risk, Johnson advises to be alert to changes in delivery of postal mail.
One of my neighbors across the street knocked on the door and she goes, "Have you been getting your mail lately?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "I haven't had any first-class mail for 5 days." And I went, "Oh, go to the post office immediately and double-check your address."
And Detective Walton says this crime will hit all of us at one point or another. Between smart hackers and the vast data on the dark web, identity theft simply cannot be prevented. However, there are ways to make yourself and your finances less vulnerable. For one, go to paperless billing. Minimize how often credit and debit cards leave your site. Carry only one ID and one credit or debit card on your person. Add security layers to internet and mobile transmission. And minimize information on social media because criminals use social engineering to put together a profile of who you are. And of course, call your local police if you think something's amiss.
This perpetrator did this day in, day out for years. And what was unique is that Julie is what got him caught.
I don't want anyone to go through what I had to go through. I got the best resolution in that I got it taken care of. I got Detective Walton, which was my lucky day.
Julie Peterson, Winnetka, Illinois.